Hello, everyone, and welcome to my world and yet another inventory video as it pertains to stuff I have in my physical media collection. As you saw just a few days ago, I went through a box filled with vinyl 45s, 7-inch vinyl records, A sides, B sides, trying to find all those songs on Spotify. We were about 89% successful in that regard, give or take. And I will be doing more of those videos, at least two more as it pertains to those old school singles. And then I have an idea to expand it even further as it relates to larger LPs and even my CD collection. Um, but uh, but this video is all about DVDs, and we got another one here. And you can probably tell already from a distance, you can zoom in if you like, that there's a lot of James Bond in this one. Matter of fact, we got one movie in here twice. And you also may have noticed, if you don't follow, or if you have not been watching the Twitch archives that's here on my YouTube channel, or joining me live on Twitch, my microphone is no longer hanging over here. I have a little table here, a little stand here, so this way I can speak and not actually have to force my voice to try and go up towards the mic. It's down here, so it does pick up a fair bit of audio. Where is the zippers? It would be nice if we can find the zippers, but we cannot find the zipper. The zipper is unaware here. We'll go left to right in this one here. Let's grab the first three here. We have Mysteries Classics. It's 8 featured films. Basil Rathbone, Nigel Bruce, Bella Lugosi. So what we got on this, I'm going to need my glasses for this one. Blackbeard, 1944. The Death Kiss, 1952. Sherlock Holmes in Dress to Kill, 1946. Torture Ship, 1939. Murder by Television, that stars by Lugosi, 1950. Wait, is that 55 or 35? 55, because television wasn't invented till like television wasn't common everywhere to the late 40s, early 50s, right? Sherlock Holmes in Terror by Night, that stars Basil Rathbone. State Department File 649, that came out in 1949. And Sherlock Holmes in A Study in Scarlet, that came out in 1953 or 33. I know the Sherlock Holmes we have on another, or at least two of these Sherlock Holmes films we have on another DVD. So like a bit of a bargain there. A bunch of short movies and what kind of is there? Mick Jagger in Ned Kelly. This was actually pretty good. It was I think it was like Jagger's first major foray into acting, and I've only watched it once, but I remember it being uh pretty decent for what it was. Just being like a kind of like a biopic in a way, but I think it was a bit over the top. I'm not sure how well it was received when it first came out, but this came out like what, in late 60s, early 70s. So Jackie Chan is the prisoner with Sammo Hung and Tony Leung. I remember watching this and being kind of surprised on it. It's really self-contained, being in a prison movie. And they're advertised as Rumble into Prison, but if memory serves me right, it was like Jackie Chan or someone is an undercover cop but ends up sympathizing with the people he's there to like snitch on. They try to escape and they all get killed in the end. I think that's how this movie ends, or I'm confusing it with something else. But but I would have to rewatch this one again because I only seen this a couple of times. Next three films we have here. Matter of fact, let me just grab the next five here because two of them are the same. Another William Shatner movie, Incubus. This is the infamous Esperanto film. Esperanto is spoken. It's the most common language in the world, according to the people that show Shatner in starring in this. But problem is, all the people that speak Esperanto were not all in one country. So this movie was a complete and commercial flop. You do have to watch it with the subtitles on, otherwise you don't have a real freaking clue what's going on. And even with it, you don't have a clue what's going on. But as a surreal artistic piece of cinema, it's definitely worth watching, and you kind of makes you question a lot of William Shatner's career choices. 1941, starring John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd. Most people think of the Blues Brothers as the one film that these two starred in, but together. But no, this is it. This is the other one. This came out after Blues Brothers, I believe, as a parody of the paranormal paranoia associated with World War II, the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and everything. It certainly is a great send up. But this movie is just long as hell. Um, I think I've only watched it beginning to end only once. I mean, it's like 2.5 hours long. And this is not even like this is the collector's edition, so I don't know if this has footage restored to it. Restored footage not included in the original theatrical release. Okay, so this version has footage restored to it. So, yeah. Then we have Blues Brothers 2000. I will defend this movie on the simple grounds of it is the greatest collection on screen of so many musical artists from Coco Taylor to B.B. King, Johnny Lang, Blues Traveler, Isaac Hayes, the Blues Brothers band in and of itself. It's Aretha Franklin, James Brown. I think it is what was her name? Erica Badu? I forget her name. She plays the Queen Musette. I forget her name. I know I just butchered it. And the soundtrack is kick ass too. So it's ignore the story and how surreal it gets, and enjoy it for the music. And matter of fact, if you don't even want to watch it, grab the soundtrack because the soundtrack is freaking incredible. Now we have two versions on DVD of the Blues Brothers. We have the collector's edition, which came out at the same time as the one for Blues Brothers 2000, and then we have the 25th anniversary edition. The difference between the two, this has the standard theatrical cut of Blues Brothers. This one has the Blues Brothers with all the extended scenes. A lot of those musical sequences are lengthened. Matter of fact, they were able to restore almost everything except one song. I think something called "Sink to Bismarck" that they couldn't find the print of, but they had everything else was lengthened, like the scene on the when the Blues Brothers go to the restaurant to pick up McIntyre Murphy and Blue Lou. The entire sequence there with John Lee Hooker is extended in fully in this version, so you get the full version of Boom Boom. For example, there. Three movies here. We have Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2. And not just the only versions of these that I have. I have like another version, like a box X version, and another one of these cases. These were like the first DVDs I purchased with my own money when they came out. So it's like I had to have them on a DVD. Obviously, this one has the great commentary with Ivan Reitman, Harold Ramis, and I forget who else. This one, Ghostbusters 2000 did not really have Ghostbusters 2000. Ghostbusters 2 did not have much in the way of special features, as in comparison to the first film. Then we have Ghost Heads, and I actually contributed to the funding for this one. Matter of fact, I got an Ecto One Funko that has Winston on it that's signed by Zack Ryder. That's so. So, and this arrived at my house the same day I went and saw the travesty that was Ghostbusters 2006. So, needless to say, I saw 2006. 2016. Words are fucking hard. God damn it. Then again, I'm recording this at 1:15 in the morning. So there you go. But it's a great little documentary in terms of celebrating Ghostbusters fans who have essentially kept the franchise alive, which was nearly killed off thanks to Paul Feig and his moronic decisions and casting choices and just terrible, terrible story writing. You won't find Ghostbusters 2016 in my collection. I can guarantee that, folks. Nor will you ever see it in my collection. All right. We got Hot Shots and Hot Shots Part 2. Obviously, a send up of Top Gun, and obviously a send up of the Rambo films. Which one is actually better? I would have to say Hot Shots. The first film is better than the second. On the grounds that I feel it was a little bit more contained. Like they actually kept the plot fairly consistent. I think there are some jokes in Hot Shots Part 2 that work a lot better than in the first film, but at the same time, in terms of a coherent story, the first film does work a lot better. Then again, you have to think of the original source material, what they're spoofing. One spoofing Top Gun, the other is spoofing like Rambo. Technically, is really spoofing Rambo 3. And so it's like the source material kind of carries a bit more weight. Now we got a bunch of James Bond films. On Her Majesty's Secret Service on DVD. I have not watched the DVD version. I've kept it sealed because I've seen it on VHS, and I think I have another copy of it on DVD too that I opened. But I would say of the early Bond films, I said it's sure On Her Majesty's Secret Service is one of the best Bond films ever made. George Lazenby does a fantastic job as Bond. I'll fight anyone who disagree with me on that. Never Say Never Again. I have seen it. It's basically a remake of Thunderball. This copy is of course sealed. But I have seen Never Say Never Again. It's a 1-to-1. It's a remake of Thunderball. Great movie in its own right, but they couldn't come up with a new Bond adventure since with all the legal issues that they just went back to just. Oh, it worked. Well, it worked in this movie that came out 20 years prior. Let's do it again. The Spy Who Loved Me. This is the one where it's like the prequel to Moonraker, because technically Moonraker and The Spy Who Loved Me are one in the same, because the exact same plot. One psycho wants to have the city underworld with perfect people. The other wants to have it in space. But one of Moore's best films there. It's definitely better than Moonraker if I had to decide between the two. Man with the Golden Gun. Not my favorite of the Moore films, and actually I think it's actually the worst of Roger Moore's efforts as Bond. Mainly because the guy, what was his name, Scaramanga, wasn't all that interesting a villain. I mean, it's like, okay, he's an assassin with the golden gun, and that's it. It's really a very, very weak movie in my opinion. Moonraker, as I said, it is basically, and one could say it's just The Spy Who Loved Me in space. There are some cute things here with the space shuttle and the laser fight between the I guess we want to say space marines and the villains. It's a little bit silly in that regard, but it's fine. It's just not as good as The Spy Who Loved Me, and it's real hard. It's like when you have the same like uh secondary antagonist in the form of Jaws in both movies. It's like, who are they trying to fool here? Diamonds Are Forever. I remember on the VHS tape for You Only Live Twice that they had a commercial, like an advertisement for, I guess it was the original trailer hyping up Diamonds Are Forever. It was like, he is back, as in terms of Sean Connery being returning to the role of James Bond. And quite frankly, he should have stayed away because this was definitely not a good movie. One could definitely watch it and see that Sean Connery is clearly doing it for the paycheck. Uh, from Russia with Love, easily the Sean Connery's best effort as James Bond. It's so good, in fact, that when EA came to him with the idea of like make a video game on the film, he returned to the role of James Bond. I mean, I have the video game from Russia with Love in my collection. We played a little bit of it just to get an idea of what it was like on stream back in did we do that in 2020 or 2021? I think it was 2021 we took a look at the video game and some of the featurettes on that too. But easily Connery's best work as Bond. GoldenEye, I have it on VHS. I never watched the DVD version, but because I had the VHS version for so long. Fine Bond film as an introduction to Pierce Bronson. It's okay. Um, I personally like Tomorrow Never Dies a whole lot better, but you know it's a fine adventure in terms of updating Bond for the modern era. And it's like, oh, he's just a caveman with all of his misogynistic approaches. View to a Kill, obviously the best damn Bond theme song. That's not an orchestral piece for sure. View to a Kill by Duran Duran is just awesome as a song. Um, Christopher Walking as the villain is great. Grace Jones as the villainous sidekick is also pretty good. Although Moore was clearly getting long in the tooth here. It's like they probably kept Roger Moore a film too long uh for it to be believable in the role of Bond. But hey, he stuck with it. It's like he stuck with it until they say no, okay, it's time to recast him. And I would have watched and this copy is still because again I would have been watching a lot of the VHS version that I had. Octopussy, best movie for a Bond, best title for a Bond movie for sure. The whole thing with the Fabergé eggs being like the way of like having the secret message, or was it secret message or something, or being smuggled out? It's kind of cool. The whole circus angle, particularly towards with the clowns, it's a nice little bookend. Again, one of Roger Moore's better Bond films. Live and Let Die. I think I said it as it relates to the VHS version, but you could not have had a more awkward debut for Roger Moore as James Bond, particularly in hindsight, with this movie coming out uh, uh, on with the peak of the black exploitation films of the early to mid '70s. But it works. Does it hold up well in some regards? No, but at the same time, it goes to show that they were going to take more chances with the Bond character and try and lighten the tone to some degree. And they certainly lightened it. You Only Live Twice. This is probably the one Bond film starring Sean Connery I watched the most as a kid. Uh, I told this story once before, or maybe twice before. Like when I would go spend the night at my grandparents' house, I would sometimes take some video cassettes with me, and I would always grab the VHS version of this, of You Only Live Twice. Maybe because it was just like the whole space setup and everything at the beginning. I always thought it was really, really cool. But it was um, easily a great Bond film, and again, this could have been Sean Connery's final effort as Bond, but he came back for Diamonds Are Forever. The world is not enough. Not, not the greatest film, and I would dare say the weakest of Pierce Brosnan's efforts as James Bond. It what was memorable about it with the holographic car and some really bad CGI with the was this the one with the what was it, the tsunami or ice thing, something involving ice. I remember that because I think we were like in the Arctic, or I want to say Antarctic, or somewhere damn cold. But eh, that's what I can really say about that. For Your Eyes Only, arguably the most serious of Roger Moore's films, and I would dare say it is probably his greatest film as Bond. Like, A View to a Kill is awesome. I think this is a lot better because one could say this was Moore's version of From Russia with Love in terms of seriousness, in terms of tone. So it's definitely a great film, and it kind of bookends things in a way too, because like this was towards like it definitely carries a lot more weight. They take the material a lot more seriously there. License to Kill, which I saw in theaters, starring Timothy Dalton. Like I don't know why my dad took me to see it in theaters in 1989, but I did remember seeing it in theaters, and it's definitely not your typical Bond film because it is straight out no apologies. It's a straight up revenge flick. And one could say it's probably to some degree the template of the Daniel Craig films to some degree in terms of like, yeah, this isn't what you think of when you think of a Bond movie, at least to me. But I still enjoyed that one. Doctor No, the first James Bond film, does a great job of obviously setting up the character, all the tropes, all the various gimmicks in terms of like, okay, Bond's a lady man. He's going to have gadgets. He has the Walter PPK. Um, he he has his quips, and he is able to deal with diabolical villains in under 2 hours in terms of content of the movie from beginning to end, and it's an enjoyable film. Tomorrow Never Dies. I do have this on VHS. I think I do. Can't remember. Like again, it's like you think it's easy for me to remember what I have and what I don't have. Sometimes I'm surprised. My favorite of the Pierce Bronson films. I saw this one in theater. Well, I did not see Goldeneye in theaters. I did see this one, and I thought it was a real fine Bond film. It actually allowed Pierce Bronson to actually uh have more fun with the character. Like it was like definitely not as serious with what they try to do with Timothy Dalton, but not as goofy as they kind of went with Roger Moore. It was kind of like that happy middle ground. Goldfinger. Some say this is the best of the Connery films, but when you got like From Russia with Love, yeah, it's like a big departure, and not to mention the stakes are not as high with Goldfinger's like plot. Oh, he's going to take all the gold out of Fort Knox. It's like it doesn't carry as much weight. The Operation Grand Slam thing, the whole invasion, the whole invasion into Fort Knox is kind of cool. And of course, this movie does have the greatest name for a character in any Bond film in terms of Pussy Galore. Yes, of course she is. Uh, that one off to the side here. So, like the last of the Bond films that we have here, Thunderball, which of course was later remade into Never Say Never Again. The underwater battle sequence is what most people, at least what I remember most about it. Put that back in its holster there. Definitely, it's a good movie. Tom Jones, the theme song is actually good. As I said, that's sung by Tom Jones, and you can totally tell with the amount of power he puts into the vocals, which is actually parodied with the movie Spy Hard in terms of how Weird Al Yankovic sings the theme song for that movie that starts with Leslie Nielsen. Long way to go for that reference and everything, but you know it is what it is there. Um, but if I had to go like in terms of order, I would say of ranking Connery's Bond films, it would go from Russia with Love, Goldfinger, Doctor No, You Only Live Twice, Thunderball, and then Diamonds Are Forever. It's like in that order, descending order. It's like Thunderball. It's good, but at the time it's like I wouldn't really go out of my way to sit down and watch it. The Living Daylights. Obviously, the first film starring Timothy Dalton when it came out, I think it was like I was not even a year old when this came out, so I would have seen it originally on VHS. Um, and again, the first Bond film I definitely remember watching was either From Russia with Love or You Only Live Twice, which is the Connery films. Um, but for it definitely does a good job of having Dalton's Bond going out there and being out in the field is like a grand it's not so much globe trotting adventure, but it was it. It's like the whole thing with the escaping through the Russian pipeline, getting the celloist. The whole thing with escaping on the cello. That was a bit silly. It was you have the things out in the Middle East, so you kind of have like that little tie in there with actual world history, with the Soviet Union kind of getting involved in things in the Middle East. Yeah, how did that work out for them? Not particularly damn well. Last three DVDs we have in here: Flags of Our Fathers. Uh, I think my dad got this for me. Um, I just remember this being fucking dull. Like this is supposed to be like Clint Eastwood's what was it? Take on the Saving Private Ryan films is like that genre of a war film, like a big grand epic and everything, presenting the war, World War II. Is like okay, this one was more in what on the Pacific front, while Saving Private Ryan was on the European front. And it's like it's not as good. And I remember this being like dull as hell. I was bored. Let's see. We have Mickey Rourke and the Wrestler. It's it's overrated. I'm sorry, folks. In terms of as a wrestling fan and seeing enough wrestling documentaries, and in terms of like how tragic a lot of folks' lives have turned out, in terms of like those who've been in the wrestling business and seeing it's like, oh, they had the fame and like not knowing when to let go to keep like hoping to get that one more run and everything, like with a big promotion or something. So knowing like so many guys who were hoping to have that turnout, and it's it's not that good. It's not that good a movie. I mean it's 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 well made, yes, but considering how so many wrestlers, especially those who had a lot of problems, like take for example the Von Erichs, who the majority of whom didn't live to even see past 1993, with the exception of Kevin Von Erich, for example. I'm trying to think of another. Who was somebody who was huge in the 80s that this really was a hanger on, and that one could say like it's the wrestler in its own way is probably a great example of Ric Flair, uh, to a large degree, but it's For me, it's a mediocre movie. It really is. And this is the Three Stooges, all time favorites. This has Family Hour album, and boy, it's like one forgets how small the print could be on some of these on DVDs. Join Mo, Larry, Curly, Shemp, and more in his collection of rare photos. So it's like a behind the scenes history for the Stooges. Jerk of All Trades was their proposed pilot for ABC TV in the filmed in like 1949. So it's Mo, Larry, and Shemp. And then Kooks 2, the rarely seen 1970 film, which had Mo, Larry, and Curly Joe going about their. It's like they was going to do almost like a reality show, taking the Stooges like out in. I think a lot of this was in Yosemite. But it was like Kooks tour was like where Larry had his stroke. So it this definitely is a bit of a gem in its own way. So it's like Family Album, programs up to early years. Yeah, so Family Album is essentially a documentary, the first annual Coast Convention, which is the TV pilot filmed in 1949, and then Kooks Tour was uh like another take on what the Stooges could do in like the 70s. So kind of makes you wonder what how would it have turned out if Larry didn't have his stroke at the time. But also have to keep in mind that Mo was going to put together another version of the Stooges before he passed away. They did like there was like some publicity shots too. So this was fun to go through these. Again, like I said, if I ever do movie reactions, I definitely have like watch films and everything. I definitely have a large catalog, and obviously, watching stuff from DVD and getting reactions to it will be a lot easier than grabbing stuff on VHS unless I can find some stuff digitally. Digitally. Yeah, that's what I said. Anyway, that would do it for this edition of going through my DVD collection. We got many more bags here. So, to short through, see what's there. What can I remember? It's like if I remember, in my opinion, something was good or bad or not. Obviously, the worst film in this collection, in this bag, is obviously The Wrestler in comparison to everything else. Anyway, so if you have any comments on the movies in here, disagree with me or anything that I said, or wondering if I have something else, let's leave it in the comment section below. If you want to like the video, go ahead. If you want to subscribe, that's up to you. I'm not going to ask you to. You do that if you want to. So with that said, we'll see you in the next video, which more than likely will be another multi-hour epic regarding music and trying to find stuff on Spotify. more than likely that's going to be the next one unless I change my mind. So till then, have a good one. Bye.